As I mentioned earlier, it's a great time of year because it means we're getting outdoors more. Of course, restaurant patios are opening up and festivals are coming back. And the second edition of Fiesta Cubana Fest 2023 is happening. And here with all the details, I'm joined by Josie Medina. Josie, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is something I imagine you probably wanted to do as a community for quite some time. Tell me about, how it all came together, that first edition.
So absolutely. We had this dream for a long time. A lot of communities, Latin American communities, get together all the time and do their festivals, etc. And we thought, oh my goodness, we don't have a Cuban festival. And Canadians are so in love with Cuba.
Yeah.
I mean, in our country, Canadians are, I think, 70% of the tourists that go there. So we know that, they're in love with us. We know it.
You're not wrong.
No. So we thought, let's do this and let's highlight Cuba in the heart of Canada, in the capital, and that's how this festival came about.
Yeah, and I have visited, and I understand that it's almost like a romantic relationship Canada has with Cuba. For those that haven't visited, how would you describe the culture and the food and the dance? Because that's all part of it, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, we're such a kaleidoscope, but yeah, we always say that music runs through our veins, like that's the main thing. I think that's the way we get rid of issues and problems. Like every Canadian I meet, they tell me, like, you guys have a lot of economic problems, difficult, lives. How do you keep happy?
Yeah.
And we always say, dancing. We just dance it away.
I love that it's that simple.
Exactly,
right?
it can be that simple.
It really
we
can.
certainly don't make it complicated.
Do you think it is a mindset?
Absolutely. We say in Cuba, it's a very colloquial saying, we say we're either a musician, a poet, or a crazy person. So those are your three choices in life.
Right.
That simple.
Tell me about food, because, you've also heard oftentimes people like, oh, the food, but I don't think if you go to, it depends on where you are. Right? If you go to a touristic sort of, resort all-inclusive, you're not getting the real experience. What is the real experience?
Well, here's the thing, and this is my theory.
Okay.
We have hotels, and we say that in Cuba, we're so good at cooking Cuban food. However, we want to be so nice to people, especially Canadians, and we want to cook burgers and all these things that we normally don't ever cook. Right. So when we try hard in the hotels to kind of cater for our, international taste buds, but we don't know how to do that. People need to get out of the hotel and go to the Cuban homes and those places where we have home restaurants and driven by the Cuban people, because the food is amazing
It's
to die
true.
for.
You got to get off the resorts and go and find somewhere authentic, which my wife and I have done, and the food is wonderful. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but let's talk about the highlights. People that are going to the festival, what can they expect this year?
So it's going to be a day packed of Cuba. It's we start at 12 and finish at 10. Start with a dance lesson. So salsa being the highlight of that lesson. So if you don't know how to dance salsa, come over to that festival. And then we're gonna have band after band after band. My favorite will be the Cuban trio, the traditional trio. I don't know if you've gone to Havana in the little alleys, and then you see in the corner, you see this beautiful three people, and they're like, wow, amazing. How are they not winning medals and things like that?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have traditional trios, and then bands coming from Montreal. They're going to be coming, two of them, and to play salsa. So we have in the face of the festival, or the Facebook of the festival, we have a lineup, and you can find it there. We're gonna have a DJ as well. DJ La China is going to get us dancing as well, and we have a lot of artists and a lot of vendors for food.
I'm going to ask you about art, because art is a big part of Cuban culture. I mean, just the vibrancy of the colors, and for those that aren't familiar, tell them about Cuban art. And I know there's a lot of different styles, but I think it's the color that stands out for me.
It is the color, and it is the dance through the colors, and that representation of our culture that makes it, special for Cuba. We're going to have vendors that go from traditional arts to books. I'm a writer, so I'm going to have my books there.
Excellent.
And we're going to have mojitos. Mojitos for us is an art.
Yes.
You know, really,
Yes,
it
that is
is.
correct,
You
yeah.
gotta be an artist to craft a good one. And we're gonna have the
Agreed.
best mojitos ever made, you know, in Canada. We're gonna have it in that festival.
Nice,
So.
nice. Let's go back to the food, because I just want to touch on how would you describe Cuban food? What are some of the sort of the traditional dishes that we would find in Cuban
Funny you
food?
ask that. People think it's spicy, and it's not spicy.
Right.
So we just have a lot of spices added to the food. So we have a restaurant coming from Montreal, Cuban restaurant. That's going to be the highlight of the whole festival. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of flavors,
Right.
Brazilian, Mexican, etc. Like it's going to be a kaleidoscope of flavors in that festival. But we have La Cecilia, which is a restaurant coming from Montreal, and they're really good at making moros con gris, you know, like that, brown rice,
Yes.
yummy, roasted pork, and tamales, which is made of corn. So we have croquetas, like a whole gamut of Cuban, like sampler of Cuban
Getting
food.
hungry already. You mentioned you're an author. Tell me a little bit about your background as an author.
Oh, well, I write books, novels mostly, but I'm also a poet, and I have a number of books published here in Canada. So I'm a Cuban author that publishes in Canada, and the highlights of my stories are always like real life, the real Cuba. So if you don't have money to afford to go to Cuba, buy my book, because it's a trip to Cuba.
I love it. Where can people find your book?
Amazon, but I'm going to have it at the festival as well. So
wonderful.
come over to
Excellent.
the Cuban Festival.
Remind everybody where and when it's happening, Josie.
So this year we're also going to have it in Lansdowne Park.
Oh, excellent.
It's going to have start at 12 noon, and it's going to end at 10 p.m. with the grand finale being very beautiful band. Café Cubano is called, and so yeah, 10 p.m. The whole family is invited. So tickets are sold in Eventbrite, but the kids come free. So it's an amazing day to come in with your kids to experience Cuban culture in Ottawa.
Wonderful, and I can imagine that you and your team see this growing each and every year, of just getting
happening forever,
bigger and better. I can't wait. I can't wait to go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you to you.
We'll be back with more Daytime right after this. Don't go anywhere.